Well, we got the Mississippi State Bulldogs on deck today as we're going to get into these videos really, really quick and try to finish as many teams as we can before this season. My name is Colin Bashnagel, your host here at Bashel CFB Show. We got Jeff Lebby in year 2 at Mississippi State. Like if you want more videos like this, and subscribe for sure for some college football content, or if you like videos like this. I kind of messed up my own beginning script, but you know what? A little bit rusty. All right, the Mississippi State Bulldogs in review. I'm going to keep this short and simple. It was not a good year. This was one of the worst defenses, in particular pass defenses, in all of Power 4 last year. They were not very effective whatsoever. Blake Shapen getting hurt early on as well did not help their case. This Mississippi State team is looking to revamp a lot of stuff. And when you look at this preview, 2-10 last year is just never going to cut it. Definitely a far fall from the late, great Mike Leach, the track that he had them on. Now we look at this roster upcoming. They brought in a lot of transfers, a lot of guys on both sides of the ball. This is definitely what makes this team very interesting to me. I'm going to adjust my camera right here, so don't mind me on YouTube. Just trying to get that really figured out there. When you look at what they have, first off, they do bring back Blake Shapen, who, by the way, has been around college football a very long time, productive player at Baylor. Was good for them to start last year. We'll see if he can get going. They also brought in Fluff Bothwell, a running back behind him, who I presume is going to have a significant role, along with Devon Booth back there, or Davon Booth, however you say it. And then they bring back Jordan Mosley. And considering what they lost from a year ago with Kevin Coleman Jr. and Mario Craver, those two wide receivers were big hits, losing them to the transfer portal. But they did bring in some speed. Anthony Evans from Georgia, Brennan Thompson as well from Oklahoma. A couple of really big adds for that wide receiver room. On the offensive line, still trying to piece it together a little bit. A lot of transfer portal action, in particular Blake Steen coming in at right tackle is a really good fit there to try to come in as an experienced player and immediately plug in over there on that offensive line, give a little bit of stability. But they're looking to start Luke Work over at left tackle, a very vulnerable position for a young player. We'll see how it works out. Not sure the O-line is going to be amazing, but I'm definitely optimistic that they're at the very least going to be able to have a little bit of production on offense, because they do have some pretty good talent in their skill position players. Also, not to mention the tight end, Traore, who comes back for another year. That's going to be very fun to see. On the defensive side of the ball, this was a complete revamp, in particular on the front seven, and then hoping that secondary takes a leap. Kelly Jones is going to start at cornerback with Diego Brumfield. Excuse me there. Just reading down these names that I wrote down, and sometimes it can be a little bit sketchy. They did also bring in, by the way, Tony Mitchell, a talented kid, a blue chip, high 4-star, I believe, coming out of high school. So that's going to help. But you had guys like Will Whitson, Jamil Burrows, Red Hibbler. These guys on the D-line are just hopeful pops, experienced players like Red Hibbler, hopeful that those guys will be really good. Hibbler, of course, coming in from North Carolina State, has played a lot of football in his time, and they're expecting for this front three to be an upgrade from a year ago. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it will be, because I don't know how they're going to gel together. When you take a look at the linebacker core, Brandon Jennings is back. Zachary Tillman is also back. And then at middle linebacker, looks like Jalen Smith is going to play, though I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Gillette, the backup there at linebacker, play a good bit as well. So overall, when you take a look at Mississippi State's roster, a lot of uncertainty here, but a lot of intrigue if you are a Mississippi State fan, that they indeed can take a jump forward and be just more competitive than they were in year 1 with Jeff Lebby. And going into year 2, I think their offense is going to have more so the identity that he was asking for. Plus, that offense was not the problem last year. I mean, it wasn't amazing by any stretch, but that defense was a huge problem. And that'll be very interesting to see how Coach Coleman Hutzler does back there. All right, take a look at the schedule. Just a quick breakdown here. Now at Southern Miss, I know Southern Miss was garbage, but when you have Charles Huff coming in there, bringing in a lot of Marshall guys, hitting the portal, super tough. Southern Miss, to me, in my eyes, goes from a team at the bottom of the Sun Belt to one that could be competing for the conference championship game. And you got to go to Hattiesburg. This isn't the ordinary new coach type of situation there for Charles Huff because he brings in so much. Arizona State, outside of Cameron Scattaboo, we know the production that they bring back from a year ago, and it's pretty good, pretty intimidating. Alcorn State and Northern Illinois should be easy wins, but two things. Number one, Northern Illinois beat one of the teams in the national championship a year ago. And number two, you cannot take any of these games for granted, especially against FBS competition, because of what happened against Toledo a year ago, getting blown out against them. Tennessee is your first SEC game and you catch them at home. That could be a tough game for Tennessee with an inexperienced offensive line. The question is going to be how much buy-in is there from the fan base. Texas A&M on the road is going to be a tall task. Same with at Florida. Texas coming into town is going to be a tall task. Arkansas is a tough place to play, especially if they have a little bit of October success. If all they need is one upset to spark that fan base to be crazy again for at least the next couple of weeks. Georgia, again, tough. At Missouri, pretty tough road trip right there. Missouri, I don't really know how I feel about them at this very moment. We'll talk about that game here in a little bit. But again, the schedule is pretty brutal. Ole Miss is the final game. So they don't catch what you would presume to be the bottom part of the conference this year, which really there isn't much else on the bottom, and that's what's going to make the SEC, in my opinion, really good, is I do think they're going to be a little bit deeper. You got to take teams like Florida seriously. A lot of elevation expected from Brent Venables' squad in Oklahoma. Kentucky is the one that you would hope to draw if you're Mississippi State, and you didn't. Vanderbilt, even though they're probably going to be really good, they have a lot of returning production. They don't have the blue chip ratio type of talent that these other programs have, such as like Texas and Texas A&M, Tennessee, Alabama, etc. And then when you talk about the games that are easier on the schedule, they get a lot of tough opponents at home. I mean, their home SEC games are Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss. All games are going to be underdogs. And I think if they got Arkansas and Missouri specifically at home this year, they might have a better chance of stealing a conference win. So ultimately, if you could tell by the tone of this video, I'm not going to be super high on Mississippi State. And like I mentioned, that game against Southern Miss, I think is going to be really, really tough. But I think Mississippi State learned their lesson from a year ago. I think they got out a close win in Hattiesburg to start off 1-0, a big win that they're just going to need to get off their shoulders before welcoming in Arizona State. That really could be a tough little trap spot for Arizona State. The only thing about it to me, though, is this is Arizona State's first big game. They're going to be fully healthy. Then you had Kenny Dillingham really address the depth part of their team in the transfer portal this offseason, because depth was a concern, even if the starting guys, the guys you saw out there every single Saturday, was coming along to be a really good team. They return a lot of production from a team that trended upwards a year ago. I doubt that they're going to take a little bit of a step back, even if they lose Cam Scattaboo. I'm going to have a loss here at home against Arizona State. Against Alcorn State, this should not be a problem against the Braves. I mean, lowly FCS opponent. This is not something that I think Mississippi State should be too concerned about. And Northern Illinois, you got to be a little bit concerned about it. However, I think the biggest reason why Toledo was able to do what they did a year ago was because of their problems in the secondary at Mississippi State. Even if those problems persist because they didn't necessarily address it super strongly, Northern Illinois is not the style of team to really exploit that. I think this Mississippi State offense is just going to be a little bit too much for the Huskies to handle. I think they go 3-1 out of conference, which is not bad. If you're a Mississippi State fan and you remember that Toledo game from a year ago, you'll take them taking care of business against the group of five and losing, especially if it's competitive, to Arizona State. Tennessee at home. Look, I think that this is a winnable game. I think that this is a game where they could catch Tennessee early in the season. I don't think Tennessee is going to have a lot of stuff figured out. This is more of a transition year than a lot of Tennessee fans want to admit. They are trying to talk them in themselves. Tennessee fans are into Joey Aguilar's just as good, if not an upgrade from Nico, and that's just not the case. I watched Joey Aguilar. I don't think he's that good. I think he's incredibly turnover prone too and reckless with the football. I just think that two things, that defense is going to be too tough for Tennessee, and I think that they just have a little bit too much talent. I think they gut out a close win against Mississippi State. And then at Texas A&M, I think this could be the first real embarrassment that they have, especially if Texas A&M can really produce from a wide receiver standpoint this year and Marcel Reed gets the throw game going. This is October by now. It's October 4th, second month of the season. If Texas A&M is going to be serious this year, and I believe Mike Elko is a really serious coach that we all got to consider, I think that this game could get ugly. I'm going to take Texas A&M to really run Mississippi State off the field here. Off the bye, I do think that they could give Florida a game if it was in Starkville, just because of the fact I don't think they're beating them no matter what. So let me just mark that as a loss. But just because of the factor that that's kind of like with such a tough schedule, a sleepy game, and it still kind of is in a way. But I think that this is a good week for Florida to really recoup, be healthy, and also because of the nature of their schedule being more front-loaded, I could expect for Florida to have a little bit more of an edge about them at this point in the season, in the back half of the schedule. So ultimately, I think the Gators get it done. Texas, I mean, I cannot pick Mississippi State to beat Texas, even if it's at home. This Texas team, if they're going to get going to a national championship caliber, you're going to start seeing that more and more as the season goes along. And in late October, that Texas team could be playing some really, really good football, much better football than you see when they go to play Ohio State in the shoe. So I definitely don't think Mississippi State has much of a shot in that game. At Arkansas is very interesting to me. I'm somewhat high on Arkansas, but somewhat not. Like I view these two teams kind of similarly, as in I think that Mississippi State is going to be a lot more competitive in the SEC than they were a year ago. I think Arkansas is going to be competitive like Mississippi State could be this year in the SEC, maybe be able to steal a game or two more because, number one, just top of my head, I'm pretty sure their schedule is not quite as brutal. And number two, I also think Arkansas has a little bit more continuity together and less pieced together talent. I think Arkansas is going to get this game done in November. And obviously, I'm going to have Georgia beating Mississippi State too. I mean, it's been a very long time since Mississippi State, even at their peak, was able to beat some of the best teams in the conference. I mean, you're talking about over a decade ago is really when you saw Mississippi State go toe-to-toe with some of the best teams in this conference. You got to go back to that 2014 season with Dak Prescott, where they premiered as the number one team in the nation in the first college football playoff ranking. I just don't see this year's team having a chance to even really compete with the top end of the conference. And in my opinion, the top end of the conference playoff caliber teams, you at the very least on the schedule have Georgia and Texas. All right, at Missouri. My thing about Missouri, I'm very confused about Missouri. I think their defense could be a little bit improved, but I expect for their offense to take a step back. I don't know what I'm going to get as a full-time starter from Bo Pribula, but I'm going to admit that there is a possibility that he is an upgrade from what we saw from Brady Cook a year ago, and certainly an upgrade, assuming he stays healthy, from when Brady Cook was hurt. So this Missouri squad, they're going to be a little bit feisty. Again, another one of these teams that kind of have a tough schedule, assuming that some of the preseason hype about teams like Oklahoma really prevail or Texas A&M improves from a year ago. And I think that this could be a sleepwalk game where not too many people show up in Columbia. I think that this could be the game that Mississippi State is able to steal. They beat Missouri. I mean, I'm hard-pressed to pick Mississippi State to go 0-8 in conference again. This isn't exactly Vanderbilt from a handful of years ago that recruited at that low of a level. I think they're bringing in just enough talent to be able to steal at least one conference game. And then off a bye in the Egg Bowl, I'm pretty sure Ole Miss is off a bye too, and this is on Thanksgiving maybe. maybe not, or maybe I just didn't correct the date. But regardless, I do think they're going to lose to Ole Miss. I am very, by the way, and did I miss? Oh, no, it was just movement up here. I am very high on Austin Simmons, by the way. And the longer the season goes along, assuming he can stay healthy, the better he's going to be. I have Mississippi State going 4-8, 1-7, but I think, just hear me out, Mississippi State fans. I think you will be pleased with the improvement that you see from year one of Jeff Lebby to year two. But I also think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Jeff Lebby to, at the very least, make a bowl game, be a little bit more competitive, get a big time upset in conference play at home. Something like that's going to be on deck in year three. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys tune in for my next video and check out the rest of them on the channel that I've already done. And we're going to be pumping them out here this week. Make sure you leave a like on the video. I'll see you guys next time.